Recently, Disney released their photorealistic, CGI'd version of The Lion King, and guys, it was visually stunning and quite interesting, but for the most part, it was shot by shot, line for line, except for a few small portions. One of the things they added to it was an interesting backstory of Scar, where we discovered that, well, he's called Scar for a very specific reason, but I think he's scarred because of more than just a fight with Muffasa. I think there might be some scarring from his bitterness. Hello, Devoted Geeks. Welcome to Geek Devotions, a show from devoted geeks who are devoted to letting people know that they are loved. I'm Dallas, and I'm so glad that you hit the play button today. If you're new to this channel, we take geek pop culture items such as movies, video games, and comic books, and we use them to let people know that they're loved. So if you don't watch anything past this moment right here, please know this. You're loved. I love you. I care about you. And if you ever need a chat, feel free to hit us up on all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just look for Geek Devotions. We legitimately just want to love you. So recently, Celeste and I had the opportunity to go watch The Lion King, and actually after we did that, we went and did a full-on review of it, which you can check out at the Victors and Villains podcast. There'll be links in the description down below for that. And we had a really great conversation with Josh and his bride, Erica, about The Lion King. As I said in my intro, it was basically a shot-for-shot, line-for-line movie. However, they added some interesting vocabulary here and there, most of it to clear up some plot holes, and some of it just because it doesn't work in a photorealistic scene. So, but in the midst of that, they gave us some interesting backstory on Scar. In the original animated series, didn't get into a lot of his backstory and how he got that infamous scar. There is a book that's out there that says he got into a fight with a water buffalo, but that's not what they did here. No, instead, they had this interesting dialogue exchange between him and Muffasa, where Muffasa says, "Are you trying to challenge me?" And he says, "Oh, I would never challenge you again." So right off the bat, we see that Scar has at one point in time challenged Muffasa for the right to rule the Pride. And sadly, well, I say sadly, he lost tremendously. He lost. And that's where he got the scar, and that's why they call him Scar. But what brings us to the point today? In the film, he is definitely, what's the word I'm looking for? Disheveled? He looks evil. He looks like he's been beat up and thrown out to the pasture. And guys, you can tell that there is this root of bitterness that's inside of him, and it's driving him to do some really ignorant things. Now, we really don't have any idea what his plans were on how to run the Pride Land prior to his confrontation with Muffasa years beforehand. But what we do know is that once he takes over, he does the exact opposite of Muffasa. He is overhunting to the nth degree, and guys, it is getting bad. Whereas in the animated series, he seems to have an established relationship with the hyenas. In this one, he doesn't. In fact, he builds one and he brings them in to help run things. I think this, for me, this shows kind of the mindset that has allowed his bitterness to not just make him angry and make him very confrontational, but I think it's allowed him to cloud his judgment and make even poorer choices than what he did before, because the hyenas, man, they're just going to eat whatever they can get their hands on, and he allows this to take place in his hometown. This kind of brings us to our conversation today, and that is the fact that bitterness is a very destructive thing. It will destroy lives. And I know what you're thinking, Dallas, I have good reason to be bitter. And you know what? You might legitimately have fantastic reasons to be bitter. That doesn't negate the fact, though, that bitterness will destroy you and those you love in the end. We are specifically warned in scriptures even to not allow bitterness to take root and to spring up because of what it does to us. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 15 says this: "See to it that no one fails to obtain the grace of God, that no root of bitterness springs up and causes trouble, and by it many become defiled." Like I said, that passage is very clear. Don't allow this to take root and really destroy your life. You have to do a couple things. You have to learn to forgive people. You have to learn to let things go and move on with your life. There's a great song that says you gotta learn to let go and let Jesus have his way. And that's really what it is, guys. You gotta learn to let go. Now I know it's hard. It's really hard sometimes, especially if you feel like you're in the right. If you feel like you've done nothing wrong, what people have wronged you. It's easy to allow that bitterness to take root. However, you have to be careful not to do that. A great example of somebody who had wrong done to them but didn't allow it to take root is David. David in the scriptures was a young man who the scriptures describe as having a heart after God. And he came into the courts of King Solomon and served him and loved him and did all kinds of great stuff. But Solomon became jealous and even attacked him. There's scriptures that talk about David having dodged spears literally thrown at him by his leadership, that he genuinely loved. Now, he, by every right, had an opportunity to do whatever he wanted to do. He had the right to be bitter. He had the right to be angry, but he didn't. He honored leadership. He had honored what was in front of him, and he just dodged the spears and he moved on. And sometimes we have to do that. We have to dodge spears that are thrown at us and avoid bitterness from taking root. What David did was astounding because he literally was willing to forgive a man who he trusted who was literally trying to kill him. Now, I don't know about you, but I haven't had anybody try to kill me. But I have had people I love and trusted, people who are in leadership, people who are God-ordained leaders, and they've betrayed my trust and they've hurt me in big ways. And I really didn't do anything wrong. But I can't allow that to stand between me and honoring the Lord. I can't allow that stand between me and accomplishing what God has for me. So I had to learn to forgive. I had to learn to let those things go and say, you know what they did was wrong and it's no excuse, but I forgive them and I move on. Holding on to bitterness doesn't do anything towards the people that did you wrong. All that does is hurt you longer. Now I know what you're thinking, but Dallas, in The Lion King, his bitterness was because he was corrected for doing something wrong. I mean, that's kind of a different situation. You're right. His problem, it's a pride thing. I can't believe I made that joke. But it really is. Sometimes it's a pride thing that takes place in a person's life, and that's why that bitterness takes root. Sometimes we are corrected in a loving and caring way, but because we don't like it, because it's going completely against what you originally wanted to do, we allow pride to cause bitterness to take root in our lives. So there's a lot of aspects to this conversation. There's a lot of things that we have to do as individuals. A, we have to learn to forgive. We have to forgive those who hurt us. B, if we have been corrected, we have to learn to take that appropriately. We have to be able to internalize that and go, yeah, I did wrong, and move forward from that moment and learn from what had happened. I'm really curious what would have happened to Scar if, when he presented his bad ideas to run the Pride Lands, and because he didn't back down, he was challenged. If he went, wow, that was a bad idea, and moved on. I'm curious to what would have happened. Well, we wouldn't have had that movie, that's for sure, but it would have been interesting to see what happens. So here's my challenge for you guys. I want you to look inside. I want you to really think and ask yourself, are you bitter about anything? Be honest with yourself. Be real with yourself. Because again, holding on to this stuff does nothing but hurt you. Some of you are like, well, Dallas, how do I know if I'm bitter about anything? Is there a sore subject that comes up, and when it comes up, you're instantly just like... Are there people in your life that whenever they come in, you're like... Ask those questions. I'm being dramatic, I know. And that's somewhat for humor's sake, but at the same time, it's reality. Are these things that pop up in your life? Maybe there's a root of bitterness that you need to take care of. You need to pull it out. You need to learn to forgive people. You need to move past a moment. You got to learn to let go and let Jesus have his way. If you need help with this, if you're like, hey, I just need to talk to somebody about this, or maybe you want prayer for any of this type of stuff, I want to encourage you guys, hit us up. Like I said, you can hit us up on all of our social media, or you can email us, geekdevotions@gmail.com. We'd love to talk with you and walk you through some of this stuff. Before we wrap this up, I'll remind you guys that today, this episode is actually the final episode of Season 3. Next week, we start Season 4 of Geek Devotions. Guys, we have gone 3 whole years of doing this show, and we love doing it. We love ministering to you guys. And what's cool about it is next week's episode, when it comes out, Celeste and I will actually be at a really cool event. We're going to be at SquadCon in Richmond, Virginia. I want to encourage you guys to check that out if you haven't yet. There'll be links in the description down below for you to check out SquadCon. So if you're in the Richmond area, maybe you can come by and be part of that really awesome event. While there, Celeste and I will be hosting a panel talking about Geek Devotions and sharing our heart for geek culture, the geek community, and legitimately just people who need to know that they're loved. At the same time, we're hoping just to love on some of you guys. We're going to have a booth there with some really cool merch. We got some bags, we got some stickers, all kinds of cool stuff. Come by, check out our merch, but check out, most importantly, us. All right, not to come look at me, but I mean, I want to love on you. I want to shake your hand. I want to talk to you. I want to see what's going on in your life. Celeste and I just want to know what's happening with you. We just want to let you know you're loved, that we care about you. So please, come by the booth, hang out. You don't have to buy anything, I promise you. It'll be perfectly fine if you don't buy anything. All right? We just want to come say hi. So come on, Richmond, Virginia, SquadCon 2019. It's going to be lit. Am I too old to say the word lit? Like I said earlier, next week is the start of season 4. So you guys know how we do things. We always kick off with a theme dealing with the season numbers. So next week, we're talking about groups of 4, and we're going to be talking about the Ninja Turtles, Fantastic Four, and a couple other really cool, interesting things. So next week's episode, we're basing it off of Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There was a crossover comic book event that took place, and there was also a movie that came out recently, so we're going to talk about that. I hope to see you guys there. Again, stay connected with us. Check out our social media. Check out our website, geekdevotions.com. And until next time, remember, stay devoted. Peace and love.